So to an untrained individual, they might look like they have fangs. But also, because they build up on the teeth, they have an interesting effect when you show black light on them. They start to fluoresce almost and absorb light. But these are all different individuals with different levels of tooth decay and gum decay. But next slide out. So this is Nosferatu, and he's hiding in a dark, looks like a dark alley. But he looks kind of scared. Does anybody know what he's scared of? Sunlight? Okay. Well, could it also be a steak? Probably not. I don't know about that either. It could be garlic.
Why garlic though? That makes no sense to me. Why? So good chefs will know that when you cook something with garlic, you want to really maximize the amount of aroma that you're getting out of the garlic. And so the aroma that comes out of garlic is actually this compound called allicin. There is a large amount of the compound in its non-smelly state that exists in garlic just as it sits there. But when you smash it, you induce it to convert through this enzymatic conversion with this compound called allinase. So alliin converts to allicin, and that's what makes garlic smelly. Now, the interesting thing about the smelly compound of garlic is that when you ingest it, it goes into your liver, and it's a competitive inhibitor of an enzyme called cytochrome P450. Now, cytochrome P450 is something that's really important to clear out toxins from your body. So, like I said, it's a potent competitive inhibitor of cytochrome P450, and so the reason this is relevant to the vampire myth is that someone suffering from porphyria, the symptoms of that disease would be extremely exacerbated if that individual was in garlic. So they would avert it.
And so I'll go into a little more detail. This is part of the biochemistry part of the talk. As biochemists, we try and understand how certain enzymes and proteins and DNA and all the little macromolecules in your cells work. Well, this right here is a crystal structure by the Shiro group in Japan, and they've actually crystallized cytochrome P450. And from that crystal structure, they were able to derive this model. And so this is a cartoon model that just displays what we know about P450 so far. And in the center of P450 is the heme ring, and you can see the giant red atom is actually the iron atom. And actually, this is the target for the dialkyl sulfide or allicin molecule that Kristopher made. And it's suicide inhibits this enzyme because it goes in here and covalently attaches. Now that's a permanent attachment which completely destroys this enzyme. So for every enzyme that gets attacked by this, it's dead. So you lose more and more enzymes the more garlic you eat. So this is really important because P450, as Chris said, is important for clearing toxins. So, and to add insult to injury, people who have porphyria probably do not have enough of this enzyme either because it's dependent on heme, and heme is made in the porphyrin formation pathway. So, now think of an individual with porphyria. They have all these other symptoms we told you about, but then they also don't have this enzyme that clears the toxins. So they probably have this extra buildup of toxins and maybe buildup of symptoms that people with high toxin amounts show, like insanity, or they might show like just different symptoms that are common. Chris will tell you about the royal part of it.
Yeah, so this was also known as the royal malady porphyria. Thought that King George III had this disease, and he was kind of mad. As Americans, we can appreciate that. But you know, a lot of times people, before they understood the biochemistry behind these things, they would just blame the supernatural. They would say that these people are possessed by demons. We're scapegoating on these people because they're seeing things differently. But it could have been biochemical in origin, and one of the biggest class of people or scapegoating classes was witches. And so witches all throughout medieval history were blamed for this, that, or whatever, but we'll maybe take you into the biochemical origins of witchcraft.
And this is Chris's. Okay, so again, this is just a mob scene of a lot of people misunderstanding an individual in their town, and maybe they had a bad crop that year, so they have to take it out on someone. So,
Why not the crazy person?
yeah.
All right, so there's been a few different proposed explanations for, historical instances of witchcraft. Some people, historians, have just called it fraud, that there was no such thing as witches, that it was all just a hoax. Political factionalism, so one political faction vying for power, and so blaming other political factions' constituency of witchcraft. Freudian psychodynamics have been suggested that it was derived from the patriarchal control of the church at the time. But I don't know. Sensation seeking, that, in the case of the Salem witch trial, the girls were accused of just seeking attention and putting on a big show. So that's kind of in the same vein as fraud. Mass hysteria, which I would argue kind of fits in with our hypothesis that mass hysteria could have been very well an explanation of why there were witch trials. Scapegoating, of course. And then some people believe that witchcraft itself existed, and who knows? But we're going to propose that there was maybe a biochemical factor that played a role. So we have some pretty good, and I'm going to try to walk back through history here and start in America and go back through the Rhine and River valleys and go all the way back to Greece eventually. But I want to start here in Salem, Massachusetts in 1692 when a little girl, a 9-year-old girl named Elizabeth Parris and an 11-year-old girl named Abigail Williams fell ill. And there's extremely well documented description of their symptoms in the court record from the time in Salem. And some of those symptoms give us some clues as scientists. Delirium. These include delirium, just general delirium, being delirious on the courtroom floor. Convulsions, specific convulsions. Incomprehensible speech, speaking in tongues.